Hi, it's Miss Saxon from the Burris Media Center, and it's a new year, and I wanted to do something. I'm going to call it First Chapter Fridays. So sometimes when you come to the library, if you don't know what you want to read, it can be hard just to pick up a book. You might think, am I going to like it? Is it something that I'm going to like? Does somebody I know have read it? But I think one of the best ways is just to try it. And, a lot of times when you read just a little bit, you can tell if it's going to be for you or if it's not. And so I thought, I'm going to just take some books, I'm going to read the first chapter and see if you are interested in it. So on January 22nd is the Chinese New Year. And Chinese New Year is not January 1st, like our New Year, but it is always usually in the latter part of January or February. And so this year is the year of the rabbit, which is actually the year, my sign, it's the year I was born. And I thought it would be kind of interesting to do a book that is Chinese. And this is a story by author Grace Lin. It's called Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. This is actually a book I read during the summer. And Grace Lin is a really great writer. She does picture books. She also does these chapter books. And this is a Newbery Honor book. If you see, it has the medal here. So one of the things that's interesting about this book is it has drawings at the beginning of each chapter. So it has really interesting illustrations, and if you look at the cover, you see a dragon. So if you think you might be interested in this, I'm going to just read a few pages. The first chapter is not too long, and we can see what we think. So this is the first chapter, and it has an illustration here. It says, far away from here, following the Jade River, there was once a black mountain that cut into the sky like a jagged, rough piece of metal. The villagers called it Fruitless Mountain, because nothing grew on it, and the birds and the animals did not rest there. Crowded in the corner of where Fruitless Mountain and the Jade River meet, there was a village that was a shade of faded brown. This was because the land around the village was hard and poor. To coax rice out of the stubborn land, the fields had to be flooded with water. The villagers had to tramp in the mud, bending and stooping and planting day after day. Working in the mud so much made it spread everywhere, and the hot sun dried it onto their clothes and their hair and their home. Over time, everything in the village had become the dull color of dried mud. One of the houses in the village was so small that the wood boards held together by the roof made one think of a bunch of matches tied with a piece of twine. Inside, there was barely enough room for 3 people to sit around the table, which was lucky because only 3 people lived there. One of them was a young girl called Minli. Minli was not brown and dull like the rest of the village. She had glossy black hair with pink cheeks, shining eyes always eager for adventure, and a fast smile that splashed from her face. When people saw her lively and impulsive spirit, they thought her name, which meant quick thinking, suited her well. Too well, her mother sighed, as Minli had a habit of acting quickly as well. Ma signed a great deal, an impatient noise usually accompanied with a frown at the rough clothes, the run-down house, and the meager food. Minli could not remember a time when Ma did not sigh. It often made Minli wish that she had a name that meant gold or fortune instead, because Minli and her parents, like the village and the land around them, were very poor. They barely had enough rice to feed themselves, and the only money in the house was 2 copper coins that sat in a blue rice bowl with a white rabbit painted on it. The coins and the bowl belonged to Minli. They had been given to her when she was a baby. She had them for as long as she could remember. What kept her from being dull and brown like the rest of the village were the stories her father told every night at dinner. She glowed with such wonder and excitement that even Ma would smile, though she would shake her head at the same time. Ba seemed to drop his gray and work weariness. His black eyes sparkled like raindrops in the sun when he began a story. Ba, tell me a story about Fruitless Mountain again, Minli would say, as her mother spooned their plain rice into bowls. Tell me again why nothing grows on it. Ah, you've heard this so many times, you know. Tell me again, Ba, please. Okay, and he set down his chopsticks, and his smile twinkled in a way that Min Li loved. So it starts the story of Fruitless Mountain and has a really beautiful picture here. Once there were no rivers on earth. The Jade Dragon was in charge of the clouds. She decided that when and where the clouds would rain on the land and when and where they would stop. She was very proud of her power and of the reverence the people on earth paid her. Jade Dragon had 4 dragon children, Pearl, Yellow, Long, and Black. They were large and strong and good and kind. They helped Jade Dragon with her work, and wherever they flew in the sky, she was overwhelmed with love and pride. However, one day, as Jade Dragon ended the rain and moved the clouds away from the land, she overheard some villagers' conversation. "Ah, thank goodness the rain is gone," one man said. "Yes," another said, "I'm so tired of the rain. I'm glad the clouds are gone and the sun is finally shining." Those words filled Jade Dragon with anger. Tired of the rain? How dare the village dishonor her that way? Jade Dragon was so offended that she decided that she would never let it rain again. The people can enjoy the sun forever, Jade Dragon thought resentfully. Of course, that meant despair for the people on earth. As the sun beat overhead and the rain never came, drought and famine spread over the land. Animals and trees withered and died, and the people begged for rain, but Jade Dragon ignored them. But their suffering did not go unnoticed by Jade Dragon's children. They were horrified by the anguish and misery on earth. One by one, they went to their mother and pleaded forgiveness for the humans. But even their words did not soften their mother's cold heart. "We will never make it rain for the people again," vowed Jade Dragon. Pearl, Yellow, Long, and Black met in secret. "We must do something to help the people. If they do not get water soon, they will all die." "Yes, but what can we do? We cannot make it rain." "We cannot dishonor Mother with disobedience." Long looked at the earth. "I will sacrifice myself for the people of earth. I will lay on the land and transform myself into water for them to drink." The others looked at him in astonishment, but one by one they nodded. "I will do the same," Yellow said. "As will we," Pearl and Black said. So Jade Dragon's children went down to earth and turned themselves into water, saving the people on earth. And they became the 4 great rivers of the land, stopping the drought and death of all those on earth. But when Jade Dragon saw what her children had done, she cursed herself for the pride. No longer would her children fly in the air with her or call her mother. Her heart broke in grief and sadness. She fell from the sky and turned herself into the Jade River, in hopes that somehow she could be reunited with her children. Fruitless Mountain is the broken heart of Jade Dragon. Nothing grows or lives on the mountain. The land around it is hard, and the water of the river is dark because Jade Dragon's sad spirit is still there. Until Jade Dragon is no longer lonely and is reunited with at least one of her children, Fruitless Mountain will remain bare. "Why doesn't someone bring the water of the 4 great rivers to the mountain?" Min Li asked, even though she had asked this question many times before. Every time Ba told the story, she couldn't help thinking how wonderful it would be to have the mountain blooming with fruit and flowers and bringing richness to their needy village. Wouldn't that make Jade Dragon happy? When Jade Dragon's children turned themselves into water, they were at peace and their spirits were released. Their spirits are no longer in the water, so Jade Dragon cannot find them in the rivers. Over 100 years ago, a man tried to reunite them by taking stones from the mountains to the river. That man was not taking the stone for a dragon spirit. Ma chimed in. She never quite approved of Ba's stories, as she felt they made Min Li impractical and caused her to daydream. "My grandmother told me he was an artist. He took the mountain rock to carve into inking stones. Did he ever come back? Minley asked. No, it probably didn't make good ink. He probably found something finer elsewhere. I bet the bronze on the horse's saddle was more than we will ever have. Ma's sighs made Minley wish that every rock of Fruitless Mountain were gold, and she couldn't help asking, so how will Fruitless Mountain ever grow green again? Ah, her father said, that is a question you will have to ask the Old Man of the Moon. Oh, yes, tell that story next. Whenever I have something important, people say, that is a question that you will have to ask the Old Man of the Moon. And someday I will ask him. The Old Man of the Moon, another story. The mom did not like stories. Our house is bare, and our rice barely fills our bowls. But we have plenty of stories. Ma sighed again. What a poor fortune we have. Maybe, Ma said to Minley, I should tell you that story tomorrow. So I thought this was actually a really good chapter because it set up the whole story. It tells you where they live, the setting, the Fruitless Mountain. It gives you background on why they call it Fruitless Mountain. It tells you that the family is poor, that they need a lot. So it gives you a lot of things to look forward to. And I like how it's like stories within a story. And so I think that this is kind of a good book to start with. And I hope that you guys will like it. Maybe you'll want to come and check it out. And we also, if you don't want to check out a whole chapter book, we have a lot of stories that are Chinese folk tales. And a lot of them are really interesting. They have sort of a way of explaining weather or explaining something in nature. And so it might be something that you will want to check out. All right, thank you.